Hey everyone, thanks for joining. I really wanted to talk today about why there's so much more than living in just the all or nothing mentality. Because this happens to us all the time. I used to live in that world as well, and it really kept me stuck. It really did, because I wasn't looking into where like the beauty lies, and that really is in the gray area. It's really in the middle. It's not really in this black or white way of thinking. So I really want to talk about that today, because I see this coming up in my group. I see this coming up in my clients. And like I said, I used to be in that mentality as well. And I had to be willing to change. I had to be willing to, challenge some of these old beliefs about the good versus bad, healthy versus unhealthy, and things like that in order for me to really break free from it. So before I get started, I did want to share this with my group. So bear with me one moment and then we'll get going. And obviously Nala is going to make her appearance, because why not? That's what happens. There she is. Okay, let's share. And if you pop on, let me know so I know that you're here. Okay, I am going to turn the screen off because it always makes a glare in my glasses. So let's get started. Now, with the all or nothing approach and way of thinking, what does that mean? So that means usually you're going to be in this mindset where it's either good versus bad, or healthy versus unhealthy, or processed versus not processed, right? You can just be happy or sad, right? Things like that, where you are on one end of the spectrum either way. And that really can lead to a lot of the, sort of mindset where you are only going to be good in this, way of thinking, or bad. So for example, I used to do this all the time with obviously food, right? And I had this huge list of forbidden foods that were all bad. And I had like a handful of things that I could only eat that were good. And any moment that I were to go into the bad list, like that just sent me over the edge. And if I were to be bad, things like that, then it just ruined my day. And I was like, well, screw it. If I'm already messing up with having like a donut for breakfast, then I might as well continue down this path of badness. And then usually those feelings then are going to be associated with guilt, with shame, with regret, with, being a failure, not worthy, things like that. And it's really just keeps you stuck. And at the same time, if you are constantly in this mindset where you can only do one or the other, all or nothing, that's huge when it comes to especially like binge eating and overeating and things like that, especially if it's in relation to the good versus bad foods. So when you're eating and say you are like, what, I really want a cookie, but I can't either, and then you come in contact with that cookie and you can't just have one. It's either you don't have a cookie or you have like 12 cookies or a dozen cookies, right? So you don't have that balance. And the beauty in life and the amazingness in life comes from being in balance, being in that gray area, being in the middle, not living on one end of the spectrums or in both extremes. And it can be very hard to try and get back into that middle if you've been living in this mentality for a long time. And it took me a long time to figure this one out too, and it really comes down to our mindset behind it, right? Because naturally you're going to have, an event happen, like a circumstance, something happens. So say that comes into play, oh, there's a cookie. I think I really want the cookie. And then you have the thought process behind it, which is usually going into either, well, the cookie's bad, I can't eat that. If I eat that, then I'm going to be gaining all this weight, I'm a failure, I'm not keeping up with my diet, I'm going to have to, compensate by doing it, and things like that. So you get into that mentality, and then the emotions behind it then go into, especially if you are, going to actually indulge and eat it, would be like the guilt, the shame, and things like that. And if you don't, you have almost this anxiety behind it. And those emotions really lead to, actions, which would either be binging on it or eating on it, restricting on it, not allowing yourself to have it. And then the results are you are stuck in this mind, in this way of living where it's just a constant chaos in your mind, right? You're very anxious around food. You're very consumed with these thoughts. It's very overwhelming and it takes over. So what we can really do is we can't dictate and change our thoughts per se. We can't be like, we're not going to think that. No, we're not going to think that, because they just come and go as we please. But what we can do is put energy forth towards the ones that actually serve us and are worthwhile. And we can put more energy into the positive thoughts that come into play, right? So if you're looking at this all or nothing mentality, what we want to do is be able to focus on the positive aspects of living in the gray area, right? Living in the moment, because that's key in all of this. In terms of intuitive eating, would be living in the moment, and just having that positive mindset behind everything would be able to live in the moment. Because the moment you can do that is going to be key and such a game changer in this whole way of thinking. It's so huge. And it took me forever. It took me forever to realize this. And I'm not gonna lie, it was a little bit tricky to do, but it's there, you can do it. But living in the moment and understanding that you don't have to be perfect with it, but you can, adhere to what you are wanting. What you can do is actually allow yourself and give yourself permission to be free from this and choose what you want to do in it. So a lot of times when, say for another example, I would look in the mirror, this is before, and I would maybe see one thing that I liked, and then immediately it would be triggered by something negative, and I would just, critique myself to oblivion. I really would. And it was never good critiques, right? And that all or nothing approach was very daunting. And instead, I could just be looking like, oh, you know what? I'm not really feeling this today, which is totally fine. I accept and love myself enough that I don't get consumed by that, and then move on. And having that gray area where you don't have to be super happy all the time. You also don't have to be super sad all the time. Right? You don't have to love yourself and give yourself amazing hugs and be like, oh my gosh, I'm beautiful and everything. You don't have to do that all the time, but you do have to have enough respect and acceptance for yourself as you are in this exact moment, in order to keep living in the world where you are free from it. But it can be tricky, but it can be done, because you have to be willing to put in the work and the time needed to be able to acknowledge some of these thoughts when they come into play, so you have the ability then to switch over and put yourself in the path that's going to best suit you, which is going to be, the most positive path you can, right? Because we are constantly living in negative thoughts all the time. Right? And that's what happens when you are in this all or nothing approach way of thinking. You are in either one end or the other, right? But that happy medium does exist. It really does. And it's not boring, it's not monotonous. That's truly where the excitement is held. That's truly where, the beautiful moments in life are in the middle ground, in that gray area. They really are. Because I am not perfect, right? I don't live this perfect life where I only eat the certain way, or I only, dress the certain way, or I only do something the certain way. There's a constant, variety in there, and that is awesome, right? Because life isn't full of just happy moments, and life also doesn't have to be just full of sad moments. There's a huge mixture there, and that also goes with food, right? You don't have to be consumed in this way of thinking where you can only or should only eat healthy foods, right? Because health in general is way more than the foods that we eat. It's a huge, huge component in our mindset and our well-being and our emotional well-being, right? All of this is just a huge, huge piece to be able to break you free from this and lead you into the path where you don't have to be consumed by it. Because if I talk to you about all the times that I was seriously stuck in this all or nothing mentality, I couldn't even fathom anything different. I really couldn't. It was a very tough thing for me to do, to be able to live in the moment and live in sort of the gray, because what people always will sometimes call, and I can do it too, is a recovering perfectionist. I had to be perfect at everything. I had to not fail at anything, and I put myself in situations that led to that. It was very boring, right? Because I didn't want to have that fear of rejection. I didn't want to have the fear of failure, because then for some reason that would hold true to what my beliefs were about myself. So I had to be willing to let go of that so I could live in that gray moment and live in that gray space, right? Because that's where the beauty of it all is. To be able to have the freedom to choose what you want to do when you want to do it, especially when it comes to food as well. Especially like when you're hungry, you should be able to eat what you want to eat at that given time and then stop when you are satisfied and or full. We don't have to have this mentality where, well, now it's bad, I might as well just binge on it, or oh my god, it's bad, I can't eat that. Instead of, this is food, I want to enjoy the food in front of me, and I will eat it, right? You don't have to overindulge on it because it's going to be there the next day, it's going to be there in 2 hours, it's going to be there in a week, right? It's not that mentality where you can only do it right then and now, and then you can't ever do it ever again. And that's what happens with these all or nothing mentalities. And that can also go with, cheat meals too, with that all or nothing approach where only on this one specific meal or only on this one specific day can I eat what I want to eat. Instead of having that freedom, truthfully, to be able to do that every single day. That's where the freedom, that's when you gain back the control in all of this, because you choose. You get to choose. You don't have to listen to other people telling you that. You don't have to follow a strict diet. You don't have to follow a strict exercise routine or anything like that, because you choose what you want that's going to really hold true to your heart. And this is what happened. I don't know if you can hear it, but my cats, I have 3. 2 of them are fighting in the background right now. And it is very distracting, and I am so sorry, but I was trying to ignore it, but it keeps escalating in a sense. Granted, they aren't doing anything. It's just our one cat is huge, and he's like the most baby of all of them. He just lays there and takes it, but they're fighting right now over a chair. Sorry about that. Welcome to the live videos, right, where anything can happen, like cats. So, as I was saying, back to the all or nothing approach. When you can let go of that, when you really can let go and be able to be okay with living in the gray and not have this mentality where you have to be perfect at everything or have everything a certain way. You don't have to have everything planned out. You don't have to, have this entire huge meal prep day where you can only have these certain items of food then throughout the week, because it really puts limits on you. It really puts, these boundaries set for you that they're meant to be broken, right? And if you break them, that's where that all or nothing approach can come into play, and then you feel guilty about it, right? You feel bad about it. And instead have, the freedom and luxury to be able to make choices for yourself, right? And not have certain things set that you can't feel like you can actually go against them, because then those, negative feelings will come into play. So if any of this resonates with you, if you're watching, let me know. In the comments below, say hi if you're watching so I know that you're here, and also if you catch the replay, let me know if you have questions, comments, concerns, anything like that during it. This is a huge part that I work with my clients on, because the all or nothing approach is such a massive thing that can engulf you on a daily basis in the terms of keeping you stuck. It really can. And this was, what I've said before, a hard one to try and overcome if this is a way of thinking that naturally comes to you. But as I've said before, you get to choose what you want to put your effort into. And we have the amazing ability to choose what we put our effort into. And like I said, the negative thoughts and the positive thoughts that come into our mind are going to come into our mind. Like that, you physically can't really stop. But what you can do is choose what you put your energy into and focus on the things that will actually best suit you. All right? And that's going to be the more positive approach to this, and that's going to be the more balanced approach to it. Because when you think of the all or nothing approach, especially if it comes to food and things like that, it really is an expression from within. So if you can look within and see where that imbalance is coming from, and maybe where those set standards are that you created for yourself, and in terms of the good or bad, should or shouldn't, couldn't do, and things like that, that's going to be a huge thing that you can actually change to pretty much offset you and put you into that path that you want to live and go down, which is going to be this food freedom and having the ability to have intuitive eating and have this huge power of self-awareness come into play that gives you that control back to be able to put yourself in these situations that best suit you, right? And that's what I really help my clients work with, because it's hard to do it alone, because you naturally are going to be stuck in your mind. You naturally are going to want to talk yourself out of it. And anything that requires change, so to speak, that sort of goes against some of these limiting beliefs and self-beliefs that you have about yourself is very fear-provoking, right? You think of these things, you're like, I don't know if I can do that. And then you just sort of stand still. But then you get frustrated, right? Because you're stuck and you want to be able to move forward, but that fear is sort of freezing you. And you have to be willing to move past that, work through it, be fearful, but do it anyways, right? Because once you do that, you really gain back the control. The fear is no longer there. Even if you have anxiety over this, once you work through it, you'll realize it's not the end of the world, and that anxiety does pass, right? It really, really, really does. Trust me, because I had anxiety over this all the time. I prevented myself from doing so many things in life because I was fearful of change or fearful of the unknown or things like that. And I had to let go of it. I really did. I had to let go of that stuff so I could move forward. And that's what you really have to do as well. And if you're finding that this is super scary, or this is like, I don't even know where to begin, this is what I'm here for. I'm here to help you with that. I'm here to make sure that you get to the goals that you want to go, and I help you every step of the way with it, because it's not something that you really should have to do alone. And I did do it alone for 15 years. And what I would love for you to not have to do is continue down that road, because it does take a long time. It really does if you are by yourself, because you are constantly going to put yourself back and talk yourself out of it and make excuses for things that really are unnecessary. But having the support and guidance, especially from me when I've been through your shoes and I've done the things that you've done, and I know what doesn't work, but I also know what does work to actually get you to where you want to be, like, that's a huge thing. And I wish I had that when I was struggling in it many, many years ago, and I didn't. And that's what I proved and I wanted to do now, is be able to help women do this, because it sucks doing it alone. And I know exactly what's necessary to get to where you want, because I'm living it. And I finally found freedom after so long. And I so want this for you too, because there's so much more to life out there than living in this obsessed, mindset with food. And there's so much more than living in the black and white world. And I really was skeptical about when people were telling me before about, live in the gray, be balanced, and things like that. I'm like, no, that's stupid. There's no rhyme or reason for that. That's dumb. It'd be boring to do that. And I'm here to tell you it is not at all boring whatsoever. It's actually more boring and more monotonous to live in the worlds where you have the two extremes, because there's no variety, there's no flexibility there's no creativity at all in that life. And you want that. You want to be, inspired. You want to have adventure. You want to be spontaneous and things like that, where say you're like, you know what, I don't really want to cook tonight, I want to go out to eat. You want to have that ability to be spontaneous and go do something. Or if you want to go on a vacation and not worry about what food you're going to be eating there, making sure that there's, an exercise room maybe in the hotel, or where's the nearest gym, or things like that, because you, heaven forbid, miss your workout. Where's the, adventure in that? Where's the spontaneity in that, right? If someone randomly, a friend was like, hey, do you want to go grab lunch? And then you panic because you've already prepackaged your meal for that day, and heaven forbid you don't eat that food because you made it, and then you would be bad, and now that meant that you were going to be bad by eating out with a friend, and instead of enjoying sort of the social event and having this connection and relationship, you're choosing food over it? Like, where is the spontaneity in that? Like, where's the joy in any of that, right? When you have these set limits that sort of keep you stuck in the all or nothing approach. And that's what I really want for you to be able to do, is break free from that and enjoy the gray, enjoy it, because it's so worth it, and there's so much joy and love and compassion and excitement and adventure in that area of life. And that's what I want from you too. So, like I said, if any of this resonates with you, if you have questions or anything like that, let me know in the comments below. If you caught the replay, say hi so I know that you caught it. And I will put the link to my calendar also in the comments too, if you find that this stuff, you really, really want to work on it, and you might be skeptical thinking, well, how is that supposed to work? It can definitely do that for you, and I will definitely help you with it, because like I said, I beat it. I help my clients beat it at the same time. So my calendar, I'll put that link in the comments below. It's sign up for a free call with me, so we can really, dive into what wasn't working, and then go through how, my process is going to be a little bit different, and how we can get you back on track and into that life where you really want to live, where you aren't consumed by food or thoughts of food or anything like that. So, like I said, my calendar will be in the comments below. The cats are now quiet. Let's see. They aren't together anymore. One kicked the other one off. That's what happens. But what can you do? It's just another day in the life of having 5 animals at home, right? So, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Forgot what day of the week it is. And like I said, if you have questions, you can always message me too personally if you didn't want to write in the comments below. So, enjoy the rest of your day, and until next time.